Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media Expert Series, and happy Friday. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event on AI Revolution 2024, Unlocking Business Value with AI in Enterprise IT. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that are going to help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we really encourage any questions in the questions box in our webinar control panel. So not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, but we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that come in. And if your question doesn't get answered, don't worry. We will send it along to our speaker to address afterward as well. So do send those questions. A Q&A panel is also the place to just say hello, which a lot of you have been doing. It's great to see where you're all logging in from. We've got a wide representation all over the U.S. today. It's also the spot to let us know in the unlikely event that you have any technical issues. A browser refresh is going to fix most problems, but if that doesn't work, just let us know there in the Q&A, and the team here will provide further technical assistance. Now, at the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant who's going to just start the weekend off right. So, of course, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll down to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. Now, these Expert Series events are special product-neutral looks at pressing technology problems, and they're presented by an expert in the field who I'm going to introduce you to here in a second. But the support of our sponsors make it possible for us to bring you this content, so we want to give a special shout-out to those sponsors. So over the next few slides, I'm going to share some messages from our sponsors today, and I'll refer to links that you can find in the handout section of your console at any time during the presentation. As always, the handout section also has a few other valuable actual tech media links in there. Especially, I'd like to call attention to the ATM Event Center, which is our calendar of upcoming events like this one. Now, before we get into the main presentation, a few words from our sponsors. So we are supported by Quantum. Quantum offers a storage platform for unstructured data and AI/ML data training and development workflows. That platform consists of Myriad, an all-flash storage, quantum data management software, and ActiveScale object storage. So Myriad is an all-flash NVMe RDMA software-defined storage file system, and it's ideal for AI/ML workflows. Quantum's data management software integrates with tons of solutions like Airflow, Fish, Spark, PySpark, TensorFlow, MLflow, and PyTorch. And ActiveScale gives you highly scalable object storage with an integrated cold storage tier. All the storage components you need for your biggest and most strategic AI and ML projects. Find out more at the link in your handouts. Today's event is also sponsored by SentinelOne. Quick thing that I should have mentioned, get your phones out if you want to grab QR codes. This one and another one will have QR codes in it. But SentinelOne's Purple AI is your AI security analyst that enables autonomous security operations. According to early adopters, Purple is 80% faster for threat hunting and investigations, 128% easier for threat hunting, and has a notebooks feature that 78% found either very or extremely helpful. So learn more or try it for yourself at the SentinelOne link in your handouts. We are also supported by Rubrik. Speed up your cyber recovery and response with Ruby from Rubrik. Ruby is a generative AI companion for Rubrik Security Cloud. It accelerates cyber detection, recovery, and resilience for all levels of cyber expertise. You can learn more or request a demo at the link in your handouts. And finally, this event is brought to you by SAP LeanIX. Companies of all sizes feel increasing pressure to rapidly adopt generative AI, both in the software they buy and the software they build. Moving quickly can offer competitive advantages, but it can also expose you to compliance and regulatory risk if you don't have reliable visibility into AI usage across your organization. A robust enterprise architecture practice can provide the visibility that you need for responsible AI adoption and governance by creating a detailed single source of truth covering your entire landscape. Learn more about SAP's Lean IX at the QR code on your screen or by clicking on the link in your handouts. So once again, take advantage of that handout section where you can find all the links that you've just seen. And with that, let's get to today's fantastic session. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenter today, Bill Clayman. And if you've joined us for some of the earlier sessions in this series, you already know that Bill Clayman is great. If you're just joining us for the first time, you're in for a treat. He is in it when it comes to everything that's going on with AI. He's got deep experience with data centers and actual AI deployments. He'll tell you a little bit more about his specific experience, but I can tell you I am really looking forward to this session on unlocking business value with AI in the enterprise from Bill. So I'm going to turn things over to Bill to get us started.
Thank you so much for that really wonderful introduction. Hey everybody, it's great to see everybody again. Now, in case you're wondering why does Bill sound a little bit different, I'm battling a cold, but that is not going to stop us from having a wonderful conversation. No sniffles or sneezes are going to stop us from talking about AI in the enterprise. Listen, this is a really interesting conversation, and I took a copious amount of notes in preparing this deck and this entire line of thought that we've got today. So AI Revolution 2024, Unlocking Business Value, AI and Enterprise IT. Listen, we are going to go and we're going to cover a lot of stuff today, and a lot of golden nuggets. And one thing that I'm going to tell you before we begin, vision without execution is just hallucination. So I want you to take a minute, right, if you're on your Amazon shopping list. I'm going to tell you when you need to stop looking and come on back to the presentation when I'm saying something really, really important. But there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to cover. We're going to be discussing some really important elements of what artificial intelligence looks like, not just the old school stuff, but more the modern infrastructure parts of the conversation, integrating with security, network, storage, and everything in between. So I am Bill Clayman, the CEO, co-founder of Apollo.us. I am the AFCOM Data Center World Program Chair and the contributing editor to places like Information Week, Data Center Knowledge, Data Center Frontier, Dark Reading, and a few other places as well. I have had a wonderful experience working in this industry for a long time and actually, drum roll, deploying AI into different types of AI scenarios. I'm sorry, IT scenarios. So we're going to go into that. We've got a fun little topic of conversation. We got a fun agenda item. Before I dive into this, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, anything at all, please, I do try and monitor the chat window. If there's something interesting coming in, I'm going to stop the conversation and I will actually ask the question out loud, especially if it's a good one. So we will have a couple of minutes towards the end. But again, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, pop them in the Q&A window. If I don't get to them right now, I promise I'll try and get to them offline, just in case we run out of time. So we'll talk about AI, a quick review of trends. We'll talk about AI's impact on innovation, understanding what's the big difference. How has AI changed, certainly from the past to what we're seeing today? AI in the enterprise, we're going to have to talk about AI security. I don't want to overwhelm you. That's not the overarching goal in this conversation, but we're going to have to talk about security, at least to some extent, challenges in deployment and strategies, and obviously we'll wrap it up with some Q&A. I'm going to keep an eye out on those questions and comments and whatever else you might have, but don't be shy. Pop those in there. So we're going to get this conversation started. By the way, water breaks are welcome throughout the entire conversation. I know I'm going to need it just so I don't start coughing randomly. Sorry, let's get started. All right. In case you've been living under a rock, you will notice that there is a 500-pound GPT generator gorilla in the room, which is ChatGPT. We're not going to spend too much time on this, I promise. But unlike anything else that we've seen in the past, the adoption of this technology has surpassed everything, really, in terms of everything that we've done, everything from, our favorite search engines to whatever tools that we use. In fact, hang on a second, only one app has risen to 1 million users faster than ChatGPT, and that is actually Threads. If you remember those guys, some people still use them, some people don't, but you can tell one of those technologies certainly remains prevalent today, and that is ChatGPT. So the use of AI has certainly gone mainstream. But again, we're not necessarily talking about ChatGPT entirely, but we do need to understand artificial intelligence then and certainly what it means today, and even more so importantly, what it means in the enterprise. So when you start to think of AI, think statistical pattern matching and recognition. It was really, really good at that, but it's become sort of this catch-all term for applications that perform very complex tasks that once required human interaction or human input, like communicating with customers or some cases playing chess. The term is often interchangeably used with things like machine learning and deep learning. So think of AI as this sort of statistical pattern recognition architecture. But the reality of the situation is, whether generative or not, AI has been around with us for a very, very, very long time, whether it's helping us fill out a search engine or, telling our cars where to drive. So what has changed? What has ultimately changed? Well, I'll give you one perspective. What feels like over the course of just one night, right, almost a blink of an eye, right, all of us have gone from interacting with data using a blue link to now interacting with data that has a whole unique generator response. Now, follow me in this for a second. For the longest time, since 1998, when the first time we were able to ask Google a question, we've been interacting with a blue link, quite literally, right? So you ask a question and you get a blue link in return, and it's your kind of job to make sure that which blue link you click on is the right one. Well, now we ask those same questions, and instead of a blue link, the first response we get is a wholly original generated response. Now, that is a massive difference. So any one of you listening, if you've used Google or Bing or whatever your favorite search engine is, you'll notice that the first response, well, it's no longer a blue link. It's now a generative AI response. That's how fast all of this has changed. Now, I just want to make sure that we understand the goal of that statement is to know that AI in all of its various forms and guises is now at the forefront of everything that we do. So how does it impact the enterprise ultimately, and what does that mean for that part of the world? So when we start to take a look at certainly generative AI, we know now that we can synthesize part or even all of a creative work. So you've seen ChatGPT. We're not going to go too far into it, but it can be used to create content, audio, code, text simulations, and in videos and so on. And even more recent breakthroughs allow us to completely change the paradigms in how we approach content creation. And of course, now further integration in IT ecosystems, AI can revolutionize operations, efficiency, decision making, and absolutely so much more. All right. Deep breath. This is a good moment for a water break. Trust me, you want me drinking water. You don't want me coughing into the microphone. All right. So thanks, Bill. That was good. How do you apply all of this to AI in enterprise IT? And yes, it's not going to be all generative AI. In fact, we're just going to have a small section on it because generative AI is not like prevalent everywhere in traditional enterprise IT. More of those traditional systems, but here's the thing, they are way more powerful. They're extraordinary. And drum roll, some of the sponsors of this amazing webinar, which I'm going to talk about them in just a second, are actually using generative AI as a part of their approach and solution structure. So let's dive into this conversation. AI in enterprise IT. Okay, first of all, if you're listening to this, I want you to channel your fear, uncertainty, and doubt, bundle it up all together, and put it next to you and ignore it for a little while, because a lot of times, especially with things like AI, that's what we get to. We get into a whole lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This thing that is AI, full stop. It's here. It's a part of our ecosystems. The sooner and more effectively that you can adopt it into your enterprise environment, the more powerful of a tool it will become. And that, folks, is the premise of this conversation and where we're going to dive into next. So when we look at AI in the enterprise, what's the difference? Ultimately, what's the potential of these kinds of systems when, we take a look at it from maybe even just the past? But you need to understand, and I really can't stress this part enough, this first bullet point. Please for a second, follow me on this. Excuse me. AI, specifically artificial intelligence, is not this rudimentary algorithm that you and I remember it to be, right? It's not, okay? It's come so far from that, and it's evolved into this advanced machine learning and deep learning framework that's capable of self-learning, adaptation, and becoming a truly powerful mechanism of innovation for your enterprise, whether it's small, medium, or large. And as a result, this technology, especially today, has had transformative potential and obviously transformative impacts, where the proper integration of AI into an enterprise IT structure signifies a large-scale paradigm shift, transforming traditional business models and enabling organizations to unlock revenue streams, new customer sources, a deeper understanding of their existing services, tools, products and solutions that they potentially offer, and how to optimize not just operations, but their entire sales cycle. And because of that, the realization, the business value realization, is nothing like it used to be in the past, where it's like 2 or 3 years. The ROI that we're seeing right now from adoption of AI into enterprise IT, 6 to 12 months, if not faster. So the potential offered by AI can be realized through obviously more efficiency, better decision making. We're going to talk about all of this in bits and pieces, fostering innovation, not just within an organization entirely, but within specific departments, where you can effectively position AI as this powerful long-term tool, not just for optimizing your business, but actually creating a better competitive advantage. Now, when we start to take a look at enterprise IT operations, AI specifically has very important impacts on that. So from an efficiency perspective, IT today is being tasked and asked to do so much more than in the past. So what we've seen now happen with AI tools specifically, things like automation, predictive analytics, streamlining processes, where these things are delivered properly into IT ops, you're going to see faster deployment, fewer human errors, and reducing operational costs, in many cases significantly. I want to make this next part clear. We're not replacing people. In many of the use cases and deployment architectures that we've done with AI in enterprise IT, it's all about augmentation. It's more about how do we improve the value of people so that excuse me, they can be building seats for the business instead of putting out fires. Now, in that sense, you are now capable of making better decisions with these AI tools, specifically where you can do better data-driven insights to improve strategic planning, do things like operational foresight and budgeting much more effectively, allowing IT decision makers to make better choices about the business, the market, what they're effectively going after. And most importantly, and this is really, really important part, it facilitates innovation, right? You can read this little block of text in your own, but as opposed, remember we talked about this legacy old school AI? That's not what this is. It's truly an engine that fosters innovation because you have continuous learning, adaptability. You're fostering an environment where new ideas can be implemented and developed quickly by prototyping, testing them, and scaling them throughout the entire organization. Whether it's a new sales tool, a new way to attract new customers, AI in enterprise IT allows you to do that faster and much more effectively. And a big means and method of way they do this is obviously through things like automation and optimization. So when we start to take a look at today's AI, and again, I really want to make sure we differentiate between old school legacy algorithms to what we're seeing today. We're seeing systems that can supercharge workflows. Even if you have an existing workflow architecture, you're seeing new technologies that allow you to elevate workflow capabilities by automating repetitive tasks and standardizing processes. Not just processes. I've seen enterprise IT coupled with AI standardize sales processes, troubleshooting processes, ticketing and servicing processes, things that you couldn't do in the past that you could do now by supercharging these workflows. And of course, resource allocation improvement is really, really important. Listen, right now, what we're seeing is the deployment of very complex and very expensive pieces of resources. In some cases, you're seeing a developer with an A100 card underneath their desk. And believe me, that machine costs, I don't know, it could be anywhere between, $10,000 to $20,000 because it's a really important piece of machinery. Now, with AI, you could ensure that the right resources are available when needed, enhancing overall productivity, so that instead of you having these separately disparate, pieces of really expensive piece of hardware, now they can be all orchestrated and you could have much more improved allocation of those resources depending on where they're located, cloud, on-prem, underneath somebody's desk, so you can actually more effectively utilize these systems. Now, task optimization, we are all task-oriented human beings, I know, but with the more complexity we're seeing in the business, the more challenging sometimes these tasks become. With enterprise-level IT, AI does some really extraordinary things. So organizations can identify and rectify inefficiencies in existing processes by using a system that actually sees how are you achieving your tasks? Which ones are you going after? Where is there more efficiency? Should we streamline how you troubleshoot, how you service people, how you go after a product set? Again, or healthcare, right? We're talking about many different verticals here while you can maximize resources while minimizing waste. And that goes across the board for any kind of organization. So we're gonna take a little pause here. We're about 15 minutes in. If you got your tea, your coffee, I'm gonna get a water break. This next part's important. So if you are on your Amazon shopping list, or if you're browsing around, come back for just a second, because this next part is important. I was gonna put this at the end. I couldn't do it. I needed to put it like this is a sandwich, right? We're gonna put it right in the middle, because this is one of the most important conversations. Weaponized AI. Listen, I know that the topic of this conversation is enterprise IT AI, right? Implementing it. I think I would be doing all of you a disservice if I didn't at least talk about weaponized AI in enterprise IT, and most of all, the tools in cybersecurity and compliance regulations that sort of wrap around this. So this is a really important part. Hang with me for just a second. In the research that we've been doing and identifying threats, right now, the vast majority of those threats are coming in through your inbox. It's really 94% plus. And where AI is a powerful tool for you, it can also sadly be sometimes an adversary, something that the malicious actors use to gain access into your environment. And so AI is now being used to conduct automated social media reconnaissance. And as a result, phishing attacks, ways to get into people through this inbox becomes so much more contextualized and far more genuine, to the extent where victims are much more easily lured. So not just AI in the sense of traditional ways that we can do recon. Now we have things like Chat GPT. Okay. Now we're not going to go into this crazy rabbit hole of where ChatGPT could be used, or these kinds of technology could be used for security purposes, but these are real threats, right? Actually, if you take a look, I know we've done some really cool AI and security webinars here with Actual Tech and B2B, so you can check those out there. I know they're available on demand, but we're gonna dive on this for just a little bit. So, for example, chatbots in security. There was a really interesting research done by a company called Cyberhaven. And they were able to see that and block requests to input data into ChatGPT from 4.2% of 1.6 million workers at its client companies, because of obviously leaking confidential information and so on. But that doesn't mean they were able to stop everyone. And sometimes companies joined after the fact when they had some really scary stories. In one situation, an executive cut and paste the firm's entire 2024 strategy document into ChatGPT and asked it to create a PowerPoint deck. Now, it did a really good PowerPoint deck, but if you know how ChatGPT works, there's a little toggle in the settings hidden in your security function that you can say either, yes, you can use my data to train your foundational model, or no. Well, in this case, this was done before that toggle existed. And believe me, this entire company strategy is now in the ChatGPT architecture training OpenAI. Now, that's not the only one. There was another case where a doctor input their patient's name and medical condition and asked ChatGPT to craft a letter to the patient's insurance company. Well, the good news is that it definitely worked. The letter was amazing. It saved a whole bunch of time for that doctor. And the bad news is, once again, you just upload a whole bunch of HIPAA information into an OpenAI model that now is going to use it to train its big foundational architecture. So there's a lot of AI applications in cybersecurity that can help you prevent this from happening. Now, when we start to talk about this, it's AI-driven security solutions, right? So where you augment traditional architectures, with these AI-driven solutions, specifically by advanced analytical capabilities, where you use these ML models, these machine learning models, to be a preemptive cybersecurity architecture, right? Where you could actually halt these data leaks from ever happening. And that's a really, really, really important topic of conversation, because you don't want this information leaving, especially when you have compliance and regulations to worry about. Now, we are going to talk about that briefly. But threat detection enhancements, AI does accomplish this, right? Where you effectively have a tool that is near as close as you can imagine to near real time that's accessing these threats across the entire landscape, which includes people sometimes using ChatGPT inappropriately. And not maliciously. Please understand, it's not a malicious situation. It's more like sometimes accidental, but proactively identifying vulnerabilities before they can become exploited by these malicious actors, and that includes much more effectively monitoring and working with inboxes, for example. And then obviously robust risk management, AI-powered risk management tools, these assessment tools, can quantify and qualify risks far more accurately and develop actionable insights to mitigate risk, ensure comprehensive data protection alongside your concerns with like protective data, like compliance information and so on. So using these sorts of risk management systems, especially when you can scan your entire environment, is really, really important. So let's pause on this, because a lot of the security questions that I get are built around Bill, what do I do around compliance? What do I do around like security, for example, in AI deployment? So that is a really important part to understanding here, because we're really discussing a broad number of verticals here. We really are, right? Everything from healthcare to legal to financial services. Everybody can use AI, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to have the same issues. They're going to be different. In the case of compliance and security in AI deployments, there's some really important things you need to navigate. First of all, regulatory compliance, right? Organizations must be cognizant of compliance regulations in AI, especially to make sure that all provisions around data protection, usage, and privacy are met with the proper applicable frameworks. One of the big challenges I get is a compliance-bound organization like healthcare, let's say, that says, up, Bill, we can't use AI because we can't put stuff in the cloud. Well, there's really wonderful ways, especially today, where you can house, work with a co-location provider, actually use these kinds of systems to your advantage, where you're not leaking a single bit or a byte to the cloud or OpenAI, where you can actually navigate those regulatory compliances, but still work with AI. This is a big one. Upholding data privacy in an AI context. Remember, we talked about data leakage or accidentally uploading your company strategy. Data privacy is paramount, right? So businesses need to implement comprehensive policies, privacy policies, and transparency practices that ensure that you adhere to relevant laws and ensure customer trust. In these situations, and this is something that we've done many times, you just simply can't go to the cloud because of who you are, where you're located, and your regulations. And in that case, you can still use AI. Many of these powerful systems today can be deployed on-prem in your environment based on your specific requirements. So don't think just because you are a legal, healthcare, FinServe type of organization that has compliance bound around it, there's some really cool things that you can still do. Finally, I had to put this one in there. Ethical considerations in AI. Ethics play a big role in this. They really do. But depending on who you are and how you implement AI in enterprise IT, make sure it's accountable, make sure there's fairness, transparency in AI, and algorithms to avoid things like biases and the misuse of data. So all of this aside, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but we need to make sure that we incorporate both security, compliance, and regulation into how we work with AI and certainly implement it. All right, we are getting down to our tailwind. I actually see a couple of questions that have come in. We can do another water break. That's why I threw these sort of transition slides in there, so when you need water, you can do it. It really helps. Trust me. You don't want me to coughing into this microphone. So integrating AI into enterprise IT and the value of insights. All right. So this is sort of like the tail of the conversation. We're getting towards the end, and I promise I'll get to some of these questions that I'm seeing right now. So one of the things that we've already talked about is obviously security. You can't ignore that. But there's massive amounts of benefits in working with AI in terms of getting value of insights, value of information, and so on. So excuse me, one of the biggest things that we've seen in terms of working with AI systems in IT and enterprise IT is obviously the enhanced analytics capability. So what we've seen is that AI is capable of sifting through very vast types of data sets at unprecedented speeds. And one of the coolest things that we've done is evaluating, looking through these data sets in a both structured and unstructured manner. So structured, pretty Excel spreadsheet, unstructured emails or like PDFs, for example. But you're getting better more accurate business intelligence far faster than you could in the past. And what's different now is that these analytics can scan more different data types, more repositories, and give you a much better decision support system, basically, where now, because you're capable of looking at better, deeper insights, more analytics, and predicting more accurately business intelligence, you can support better decisions by providing real-time insights and analytics and equipping all of those important decision makers with the knowledge they need to act and do so confidently and effectively, regardless of what kind of business you're in or vertical as well. And as a result, because we're capable of working with data far more effectively, we see that predictive modeling has come a long, long way. Listen, we could do this in the past. We used to be able to do this. I mean, obviously, we would do this with traditional AI workloads and some of those legacy types of data structures. But today, this has come a very, very long way where we're using AI to better predict, show, and forecast future business trends and requirements based on historical data and actually create operational efficiency, because now our leaders can basically plan a lot more effectively around what they're doing with things like everything from storage, product development, to supporting IT systems and actually scaling this out. Now, how do you actually integrate all of this? So if you're at this point and you're still listening, so by the way, thanks for still listening, you're saying, okay, Bill, this is all really good stuff. We have AI here and there, but we really need to integrate it into our existing IT infrastructure at a bigger scale. What does that look like? How do we actually do this? So in an enterprise environment, and by the way, whether you're a small, medium, or large enterprise, a lot of this is going to apply to you regardless of how you deploy it. So one of the biggest things is the integration strategy that you can apply with. You want to have a clear strategy, obviously, right? You're going to have some involvement with existing IT infrastructure and prioritize areas that are ripe for AI implementation. Don't force it. That's the one thing that I've learned, is that you don't want to force it into an environment, because you need to work with systems that are ready for AI and ones that are not, which brings me to my next point, addressing legacy. Almost all the environments that I work with have some kind of a legacy infrastructure. So you need to think of an effective way to incorporate AI into legacy systems. Now, there's the truth of it. You might need to necessitate an upgrade, or you might need some middleware to ensure compatibility and functionality. But listen, this is an existential situation here. So you need to ask yourself the question, what does it cost me to continue to run my business on these legacy systems versus what it would cost me to run this on an optimized AI environment? So I can't give you the answer, at least not on this webinar, but it's something that you can consider and certainly continue to look into. Now, when you don't have legacy environments and you actually have something a little bit more modern, you can use APIs to your benefit. Now, the utilization of these application programming interfaces really facilitates the interaction and connection between AI systems with existing applications, really enhancing the coherence and system integration between these tools. Now, this is something you can't do if you have legacy systems, right? Or if you don't have API access. So something you need to think about, but the most important, I love APIs. I love open architectures, because ultimately, when you do have that kind of architecture, it ensures something very, very important, a method and means of scalability within your business. That's actually something really, really important to understand. How do you scale with AI solutions? So let's talk about that really briefly. First of all, cloud. It's not for everyone, but it is a really powerful tool. We see that cloud provides a really good foundation for scalable AI deployments, really because of fluctuating workloads and resource requirements. Now, I'm going to put a little asterisk there. While cloud is a really important tool, you must begin a lot of your very expensive cloud deployments with repatriation in mind. What does that mean? That means that just because it lives in the cloud today doesn't mean it needs to be living in the cloud 3 years from now. How much does it cost you to deploy a widget in the cloud today versus how much it's going to cost you in 3 years? And creating a cloud balance between these kind of environments is not that difficult to do. Hybrid and multi-cloud ecosystems are arguably one of the biggest and most important deployment models for AI today. So think about cloud, but use it to your advantage. Don't just say cloud by default. Really understand and utilize hybrid environments to deploy AI solutions. Excuse me. So performance monitoring tracking, this is an important one. So implementing robust performance monitoring is essential for scaling AI solutions effectively. This is a challenge. We've been a part of a few deployment methodologies where AI is working, it's being deployed, but it's not being effectively monitored, which is actually a bit of a problem because in that case, you have a powerful system that's created bottlenecks. So in that situation, you definitely want to make sure it's monitored. It's not over or underutilizing resources that you have in an AI system that's actually working for you. And finally, resource management innovations. This is a big one. The ability to ensure scale with AI solutions must revolve around your ability to manage your very critical, in cases of AI, very expensive resources. So AI technologies really do enable smart resource management where computing resources can be dynamically allocated based on current requirements, prompting efficient utilization across the board. So that means on-prem, at a co-location, in the cloud, or really anywhere in between. This is a moment for you to think about how are you using cloud? Are you using AI? And is it actually cost effective for you? All right. We are starting to wind down this conversation because one of the things I wanted to talk about, there's a couple of sponsors to this webinar, and this isn't even a pitch to them. I want to make sure that we talk about of how AI is being effectively used within enterprise IT. So I'll share this with you. So there's a couple of sponsors here that we got SentinelOne, Quantum, and Rubrik, and each of these organizations are actually leveraging AI in IT and enterprise IT. So just a couple of these really fun use cases: AI-powered threat detection. That's actually a really important one. Autonomous incident management, predictive intelligence for risk mitigation. That's a good one. Quantum is doing some really cool stuff around data storage management, automated data lifecycle controls, and even things like enhanced data protection. I think that's really fascinating. And Rubrik, this is an interesting one. Excuse me again. They have delivered a generative AI companion. Actually, I'm pretty sure they're using OpenAI for that. But Ruby is an AI assistant that simplifies and automates cyber incident response and recovery. They also have a cyber recovery tool with AI powered and machine learning for anomaly detection. So you can already see how these are bits and pieces, puzzle pieces of where you can deploy AI into existing IT ecosystems. So this is something that, excuse me again, that we're seeing in this space that's impacting our businesses already. So now we've talked about security, talked about case studies, we've talked about optimization. Now we're going to talk about something really, really important. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, I should say. So there are challenges when you deploy AI in enterprise IT, right? So these are, let's call them little road bumps that I've seen in any kind of solution that you deploy into AI. So let's talk about a couple of these. Actually, there's three. Some common obstacles include inadequate resources, lack of awareness, and misalignment between business goals and AI initiatives. This is an important one. A lot of times when we go into an environment, it's one group, one business unit that's asking for a deployment where many of the other pieces of the organization either don't know this exists, the business goals aren't being aligned. This is one of those situations where we got to do AI. Let's throw a dart at the board and hope that it sticks. That's not a good strategy. You need to make sure that you have good business goals alignment, which we talk about that in just a little bit. You need to make sure you're aligned with your business and your IT teams. AI is different. AI is different, right? So we've seen resistance to change where it's cultural, for example. It could be legal. People could be afraid for their jobs. Or it could be very much a disruption of an established process. But just because it works doesn't necessarily mean it's bringing you value regarding those established processes. One of the most important things that I've seen that's effective in resistance to change is obviously education, and that by and large, many of the projects that we've done have not been to replace people. They have been to augment them, to increase their value, and to allow them to do quite a bit more for their organization that they simply couldn't do in the past. So this is something that's really important, and you need to do your own organizational research so that you don't have cultural resistance. Training and skills gaps, that's a big one. A lot of times, fast-paced evolution of AI necessitates ongoing training and skills development. And a lot of times people skip that, right? They do. And they think that, people will learn on the fly, and they don't, right? And so you have this really powerful tool that's either misused or is not actually doing what it needed to do for your business. So you got to make sure you train your people on these systems. And a lot of times what we've seen is to create champions within departments who are sort of like your go-to coaches when you're deploying a new AI system that can be referenced, that can be used to actually excite other people in the business and work with these AI systems a lot more effectively. So that's been a good one. We like to create champions in AI. So in terms of some successful strategies for AI implementation, I'll give you some things to think about. Adopting best practices is a really sort of overarching term because it really does depend on the vertical, the business, your industry, and et cetera. But when you focus on adopting business best practices, given your organization, you're going to ensure alignment. You really will, right? Especially when it's around your organizational goals, when you have that clear communication around what you expect these systems to do. That's probably one of the best successful tips for AI deployment is to start the conversation early so that everyone understands their role and what the role of AI is going to be. In that sense, organizational alignment, that's been the biggest one. It's critical that AI initiatives have alignment with the organization's strategic vision, fostering buy-in from key stakeholders at all levels to ensure collective support. The last thing that you want is an executive in the kitchen who didn't know this exists, who stops a process midway. Has this happened? You better believe it's happened. It happens a lot, in fact. So, you want to make sure that all the cooks in the kitchen know what the recipe looks like before you actually start cooking the soup. And it is very critical. We've seen many good projects halt for months at a time because an executive or a team wasn't brought into the alignment framework. So really important stuff. And then finally, one of the most important things is that, this doesn't stop. None of this stops. AI innovation and development never stops because it is an iterative approach, right? So implementing these AI solutions incrementally allows organizations to adapt and refine your strategies based on real-time feedback from organizations, customers, business units, and so on, and actually have measurable outcomes, enabling a culture of continuous innovation and continuous improvement. So in that sense, it's really important for different business units, all the way down to the folks that are boots on the ground, all the way to the executive teams. How are you working with these systems? How are you making sure that they're never stale? And how are you ensuring that these processes are continuously evolving and impacting your business? Because here's the thing, you have to embrace this AI revolution. You must. It's an imperative situation because ultimately none of this is going to change. Quick water break. And when you embrace this AI revolution, you really do see a lot of really cool things happen. So let's talk about these, right? We're at the tail right now. If you got questions or something, make sure you pop those in. I'll be able to answer those. We got a couple minutes. Organizations must strategically navigate AI's transformative power, right? You have to align with it. You have to know what your business objectives are capable of aligning and really capture that maximum value while considering ethical implications like we talked about. AI is truly a transformative power. It really is in all of its various ways that you can use it. But the key thing here is that you need to make sure that you're working with systems that are impacting your organization strategically. You always have to look ahead. Future outlook is going to be important. Enterprises must remain agile, continuously evolving their strategies, not just to keep track of what you're doing today, but innovating your future and being far more effective in how you innovate. AI is a tool for that level of innovation. You just need to capture it and make sure that each business unit individually is focusing on the big picture. Let's call it that. And then obviously AI is an ongoing learning journey. And that's why you're here, obviously, right? You're asking these questions and you're learning alongside me as well. Because really it is an ongoing learning and an adaptation journey. Organizations need to foster a culture of continuous learning and innovation to adapt to new challenges and leverage opportunities that arise as technology advances. So AI is an engine of growth. It's an engine of innovation as well, and it actually helps foster innovation within an organization that's using these technologies properly. Always learn, always adapt, and always aim to scratch the surface of new technologies and work with them inside of your organization. Don't just adopt blindly. but definitely have a strategy and a vision to use these systems. Because here's the thing, this future is extraordinary. And this is something that was recently released by OpenAI as it imagines our AI future. And I want to talk to you about this really, really quick. This is the last slide that I got, by the way. I see some questions that came in. We're going to answer those. Chatbots, AI, and conversational language is level 1. Level 2 is reasoners, right? Human level problem solving. Level 3, agent systems that can take actions. Level 4, innovators, AIs that can aid in invention. And then finally, level 5, organizations where AI can do the work of an entire organization. Whoa. I'm going to give you a second to look at this list. Where do you, audience, think we are right now with this list? I'll give you a second. We are barely scratching the surface with level 1. And the reality is, we're actually running out of data for some of these new big ChatGPT, GPT-like systems. So we are forcing ourselves to use things like synthetic data. The point is, the future is extraordinary. These AI systems are only going to get more powerful, but not in a sort of negative way, but ways that we can use these environments and systems to better impact enterprise IT, the services that we deliver, and how we impact our customers. So our AI-powered future is extraordinary. Don't subscribe to the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Definitely use these systems. And like I said earlier, vision without execution is just hallucination. So take a gold nugget that we talked about today and actually apply it. All right. Before I pass it back to the moderator to wrap it up, it looks like we've got a couple of questions here. All right. So there's definitely a couple of questions around complexity. There's 3 of them, right, Bill? Is this complex to deploy? I don't want to introduce complexity to my environment. And my engineer sitting next to me saying this is going to be really complicated to deploy. All right, well, though, that's good way to start. And then I'm going to answer this one. Try and mush them into one question ball because I've got a couple of the ones I want to get to. The most successful deployments of AI are done in validation bubbles, right? So you take it, you deploy it, you validate it, and then you expand it into the company. You don't just want to blanket deploy into your entire organization. We talked about it earlier, where the most successful means and methods of deploying these kinds of technologies really does revolve around you involving your people. Really, I mean, you have to involve them so they're comfortable with it, and so they can actually utilize it. Now, the complexity question actually comes back to you, right? How legacy are your environments? Are you standardized on, oh my God, like 3 COM server, network switches, for example, or like are you much more modernized with a really cool east-west traffic flow, good conversion infrastructure? What does your environment look like? Because then it really kind of revolves around how complex this deployment is going to be. If you're on a modern ecosystem, it's not quite as bad because you can use these systems already within your environment. If it's a very legacy ecosystem, we're probably not even going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about how do we upgrade your existing environment. So with a good partner, these deployments do not have to be complex. I think that's an important one. How do you navigate challenges around data gravity? All right, so this is a challenge where you're deploying AI systems where, for example, information can't leave a certain premise or a facility. I think AI does really 2 important things. First of all, it helps you in understand where your information lives and how it's being used. And second of all, it allows you to wrap services and options and functionality that are specific to your business, right? So if you're a bank or financial services or healthcare, for example, where you have to have information living on-prem, this stuff can help you out. So in one aspect, I can actually give you a real use case. We have a healthcare client that is at a co-location. They want to deploy AI, but they can't go to the cloud, but their co-location partner has some AI systems. And the good news is that they took their storage environment, put it in the co-location, air gapped it, so completely isolated from the network. And now they can actually use these AI systems because they are completely quarantined off. Their information is safe. None of the stuff they're actually using generative AI, it's not going to go into the cloud because they are actually integrating, in this case, at least with Llama 3.1, one of the big foundational models, and they can actually put that directly into their AI cluster without having to go anywhere. Now, it's a very specific use case, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it either. If you have challenges around how and where your data lives, it's more of an architectural question. You can still certainly do some really amazing things with AI. Are the solutions you're talking about custom, or are there some products already available? I understand that much of this conversation was high level, right? It was. And the challenge is like, when I'm talking to you, it's not like I get a chance to say, you know, AI and enterprise IT for healthcare or AI and enterprise IT for legal, right? We have to really sort of, it's a broad brush stroke. So yes, some of this is high level. The truth is, yes, there are custom solutions out there that you'd have to build, but they're really expensive. But obviously, as we talked about, hang on a second. I'm gonna do some live. There we go. I'm gonna pull this slide up really quick. This is it, right? This is your question. Are there solutions out there that are packaged, that are ready to go? There are, right? Just kind of depends on your use case, whether it's real-time response, whether it's storage optimization, whether it's like AI powered cyber recovery. What is something that you require from the AI conversation that moves the needle for your business, right? That's the ultimate question that you're going to have to answer. So while yes, there are solutions out there that allow you to create a custom architecture, certainly, leveraging pre-existing solutions like the ones that are in this partner call webinar is something that I definitely recommend that you do. All right, it looks like there's a couple more questions. I'm going to try to get to some of these offline because it looks like I'm starting to run out of time a little bit here. We are going to take this conversation and we're going to absolutely continue it because you see all of my social media connectivity, all of that. Don't be shy. Let's keep this chat going. I hope to see my LinkedIn profile blown up with a whole bunch of new friends. So we can continue this really, really important conversation. We are seeing the deployment of AI in so many different areas, so many different verticals, and making extraordinary impacts in the business world. I absolutely want you to move away from any fear, uncertainty, and doubt and think about how you can leverage AI in enterprise IT today and what kind of a difference it can make for you. With that, I'm Bill Clayman. Again, if you have any questions or comments, by all means, find me online. And with that, passing it back to the moderator to wrap it up.
All right, thanks, Bill. And great presentation. Really, really interesting stuff. And before we wrap up, we do have one more piece of business, and that's the Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of that $250 Amazon gift card is Daniel Fours from Pennsylvania. So congratulations to Daniel. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank our sponsors for making this event possible. It was Quantum, SentinelOne's Purple AI, Rubrik, and SAP's Lean IX. And once again, there is more information about all four of those solutions in the handout section, which you can grab right now before we close. And thanks as always for attending and for your great questions. That's going to conclude today's event. Have a fantastic rest of your day and a great weekend.